Dude is anti-porn, pro-gun, anti-diversity, anti-LGBTQ people, anti-affirmative action, anti-feminism, anti-war, pro-life, anti-immigration, and of course, with all that, supports Trump. Because of course he would. So I was recently introduced to a guy called Vincent James, thanks to a post from Right Wing Watch. And I figured I'd go ahead and do a little bit of research into him and then get into the reason why I wanted to cover him in the first place. But before we get into any of that, let's go ahead and get into the fan art section. This first one is from Harley Quinn, aka Danny Kitty. Was gonna make the slime cat / Suris different colors, but ran out of room. My daughter said that it was the cutest kitty ever, and the hand sign is I love you in American Sign Language, in case you didn't know. Well, thank you very much for that. The next one we have is from Yakobo the Witch. Was watching on YouTube recently and misheard snail Suris, so I made a quick sketch of a snail Suris and on a poorly doodled hammer. These are both very, very precious. Thank you very much for both of these. As always, everybody, if you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop it into the fan art section of the Discord. With that said, let's go ahead and get into the topic after you hit the like button and subscribe. Alrighty. So, who is Vincent James? Well, he runs the media entity, the Red Elephants. Now, if you don't know who the Red Elephants are, then you're not American. I'm kidding. There's two red elephants. There's the idea of the red elephant as the spokes animal thing for the Republican Party, and then, of course, there's the Red Elephants media entity by James Fox, which promotes conspiracy theories, anti-Semitism, and white supremacist mantras. They were an American right-wing political channel that was dedicated to encouraging more people to become conservative, especially, as is always the case, young people. Political opinions, commentary, and debates were used to this end. It was also a way for Vincent James to channel Owen Benjamin's vibes, functionally. Due to the controversial views of Vincent James, his channel was terminated, but of course remains active on other social media entities such as Telegram. Even though his channel is currently deleted, all of his old YouTube uploads are available on BitChute, because of course they are. BitChute has no standards for what it allows on its platform, so it allows everything from me to the most virulent of Nazis on there. He also tried streaming on DLive for a while in January 2021, but was banned along with Baked Alaska and Nick Fuentes. Dude is anti-porn, pro-gun, anti-diversity, anti-LGBTQ people, anti-affirmative action, anti-feminism, anti-war, pro-life, anti-immigration, and of course, with all that, supports Trump. Because of course he would. So with all that said, let's go ahead and get into why I found myself dealing with him.
Like, well,
this is taken from his own show. This is where Vincent James says that his fellow people must, well, let's go ahead and take a listen. Let's go.
Republicans are going to come after contraceptives next. They're going to come after all this stuff next. It's like, yeah, we have to come after that stuff because we have to return to where we were. We have to go back because obviously allowing this to go forward either quickly or slowly isn't working out for us. It's destroying everything. It's leaving total destruction in its wake.
So they need to go after contraceptives. They need to go after... It's an idea, like, you need to be an extremist in order to accomplish the goals that someone like Vincent James wants to accomplish.
So, you know, when you look on Twitter and you see people having a discussion about whether or not gay people should be able to adopt kids, you see a lot of people chiming in saying, well, we can't ban them from adopting kids because that would be harmful to democracy, but we have to, like... It's like, no. It's like, no, this was banned all the way up until 2010. So basically it goes like this. Something is banned, and then we unban it, and then it gets normalized, and they break down all the social norms in regard to it, and then it gets completely out of control.
So this is just the slippery slope fallacy. This is the general idea that, oh, if we unban the gays, then we're gonna have bestiality next, or some other random shit. It's always something like this. If we unban one thing, then everything else ends up following suit. It always astounds me that the party of small government, the Republicans, naturally always end up being the ones that are arguing for more and more restrictions to human rights. So the reason that we end up finding extremism so often in things like the MAGA movement, in things like conspiracy theory areas, is because they realize that sometimes it's easier for them to just advocate for the extreme thing than it is to advocate for measured responses to the things they dislike. Because if you just advocate for the extreme thing, when somebody tries to pull you in for compromise, you always end up closer to where you want to be than the opposition wants to be. Jasmine Devils, thank you for the follow. As an example, what is the middle ground between genocide and it's really hard to say what any kind of middle ground you could possibly find between those two things might look like. So instead of starting from, hey, let's go ahead and make sure that we can sterilize a certain type of people that we don't like, typically trans people, this is a thing that's done in Finland, somebody who's far enough into the extreme may just argue 100% for the types of things that you would think are completely repugnant, so that when you go into that conversation trying to move them closer to your side, you always end up at a stage of genocide as opposed to just all genocides. Sold very fast on sounds about white. Well, I'm glad that offhand bit of dad humor was enough. That's one of the reasons why you see people advocate for extremist positions when they can get away with it. It's very hard to advocate for super extremist positions when you're like a Ben Shapiro type of person, because you have to seem more reasonable, more logical. But if you're a Nick Fuentes type person, if you're a person like this guy here, if you're a person like Vincent, you're gonna find that you don't actually need to toe that line of moderacy. You just have to say the thing you want in the end goal out loud, and naturally you're going to find people who are willing to meet you halfway. And again, halfway on the way to genocide is just a step towards genocide. Either way, they win.
What we have to do is we have to go backwards. We have to go backwards. We have to go back to the drawing board and stop accepting this abstract bumper sticker worldview. We have to solve this through regulation. It is the only way to solve what is happening.
So I like the vagosities, the vagaries that are always used here. We have to solve what is happening. Well, what is happening? If the only things that are happening are, well, gay people can get married, it's getting easier for gay people to adopt people, trans people are more accepted now than they ever have been in any stage of United States history. If it's stuff like that, then I don't see the problem. I don't see the issue there. That just seems like people being allowed to exercise their personal liberties to their maximum.
And the problem is that just we don't have like legislators that have the moral courage to be able to do this. It's not enough to just like write a law that says, okay, this is banned, and you name that this. No, you have to completely destroy the entire curriculum, and you have to do a new mandatory curriculum. And the state can do this, right? These are the powers that are given to the state. This is not the federal government's powers. You have to create a whole new curriculum, and you have to make it mandatory to believe the things that we do.
So this is basically just brainwashing. I like how when conservatives bitch and moan about the way the curriculum pushes an LGBTQ agenda or anything like that, typically the response we have to give is, well, no, it's not doing that. Well, no, it's not doing that. But then you realize that just about every single thing, every accusation that comes from a conservative pundit, this is not somebody who just so happens to be conservative. This is not your friend Joe at the table who happens to believe in "Don't Tread on Me" stickers being grafted onto his body. No, we're talking about people who are like Tucker Carlson, Matt Walsh, Ben Shapiro. These are the people who get up on the pundit stage, the people who tell you how to be conservative, how to go about your daily life, how to dislike LGBTQ people. Those people when they accuse the left of doing anything, it is almost always a version of rejection. Why would conservatives be mad that there might be some kind of left-wing indoctrination in schools? Well, because they want right-wing indoctrination in schools. They're not trying to say schools should be a neutral territory. They're trying to say, hey, why are you using that toy that I want to play with? That's functionally what's happening there. These people see human rights as a zero-sum game. You see the person next to you gaining the ability to adopt as some slight against your ability as a cis white dude, het man, whatever. I say that as a heterosexual cis white dude. I mean, dead serious. Hello. But you say things like, oh, we need to get rid of their ability to adopt. We need to get rid of their ability to have kids, foster families, etc. As if somehow other people having these rights, other people having these abilities, takes away from your right. In the conservative pundit's mind, the idea that they need to push to their audience, whether they believe it or not, is the idea that rights are zero-sum. If I get the right to something, it must naturally come at the cost of someone else. If somebody gets rights to more food stamps, that naturally comes personally out of their paycheck, despite the fact that the same amount of taxes are getting pulled from their paycheck no matter what, and all those budgetary changes are doing is changing how things are allocated, and somehow you find that as something to bitch about. We did a whole video on SNAP benefit changes that are being pushed by the GOP, so I'm still on that shit. But it's a disgusting mindset, because the reality is rights are not zero-sum. If more people gain access to adoption, if more people gain access to getting married, if more people gain access to being able to get surgeries that help them live more comfortably in their bodies, then all we get is happier people. But that's the thing. Conservatives don't want you to have happy people. Conservative pundits don't in any case. Because conservative pundits need their audiences to be miserable. Because a miserable audience will look to a pundit for answers. If you think the world sucks and somebody else is telling you they have ways to solve that, whether or not they're lying, then that is enough for you to tune into their broadcast, donate to their show, do anything. All somebody has to do is convince you that the thing they do is necessary for you to fund it. The thing I do on this platform is not necessary. I am a PNG turned facecam turned VTuber, atheist turned political commentator that talks about the things that I don't like about the world around me. That's it. My job, functionally, is professional bitch fitting. That's my job, 110%. If you wanted to put a label on it, it is professional complainer. Nothing that I do is necessary. I am thankful every single day for every person that donates to the show, that subscribes on Twitch, that subscribes on YouTube, that pops onto the Patreon, that sends individual donos during events. Like, every single one of you that help out the show, I am eternally thankful for. But I'm never going to be so deluded into my own self-importance as to think that I provide some kind of necessary service that could not be gotten from someone else. You get the same type of stuff that I do from Telltale and Vosh and Xanderhall and Shark Zero. All I'm doing is changing the flavor that you're getting it in. But people like Vincent and Fuentes and Matt Walsh, they need to convince you that they have all the answers to the world's problems. And if you need to figure out how to operate around the world in a better way, you need to watch their shows. That's the idea. Convince you that the world sucks, convince you they know how to fix the world, and convince you that there are enemies that you are going to be fighting against in this battle of wits in the marketplace of ideas. It is a giant facsimile of self-importance that is being sold to you when you tune into any one of their channels. It's a bit like going to church. But that said, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't already. Any of that fun stuff. And realistically, if somebody's telling you that everybody around you needs to fall further and further into the deepest recesses of extremism to change the world around them, fundamentally, ask yourself, are they right or are they selling you something? There are cases when they are right. there are cases when we have to resort to things we might not want to in order to change the world around us for better. Think Stonewall. There are other times where somebody is selling you on a giant lie about the types of things that need to be changed in the world and the ways you can change them. Think January 6th. But the conversation now needs to move into the comment section. Hit the like button if you haven't already, subscribe if you haven't already, and as always, everyone, insert end of video tagline here.